I was in Fort Worth Correctional Institute, FWCI, in Fort Worth, Texas. It was the last federal prison that I was in. And it was really when we pulled in there, because I'd been in Leavenworth, I'd been in El Reno, Oklahoma. That's a nasty, dirty fucking bird infested fucking penitentiary. The birds, they have to shoot off cannons to scare them off at different times during the day, and it was just like millions of them in the trees outside the cell houses. Crazy dirty place. Funny thing about El Reno, John, years later in my life I found out that my stepbrother Donnie was in there for bank robbery.
No shit.
So we'd been to the same prison. But so I'd been. These were some really serious, scary fucking prisons with scary ass convicts in them. But finally I made it down to Fort Worth Correctional Institute. When we pulled up there, bro, it was like a fucking campus. It was manicured lawns, looked like a golf course. Hell, we got off the bus and the warden was there, and he had this little buddy who was a convict there. He was a little gnarled black dude, dwarf, and so we made up a story like he was Ricardo Montalban in the series Fantasy Island, and the warden's little black dude was Tattoo. And then as each prisoner was getting off the bus, we were all handcuffed and shackled. We'd been at the highest maximum security prisons, medium security, and now we're down here in minimum security, right? And we made up like a story about that was the prison version of Fantasy Island. And as each prisoner gets off the bus, the narration would talk about what their dream in life was, and make it like convict based. But they had women in there. Now I'd heard about that when I was in El Reno. This guy had told me that where I was going, he said, they have women in there. I said, oh, bullshit. He goes, no, they do. He said, they're called walkies because you could hold hands and you could walk around with them, but if you touched them, trust me, people disappeared every day, because if you they knew everything that was going on there, and if you got caught being intimate with one of the female convicts, your ass was going to Texarkana immediately with
Mm.
with no $200 for pass and go. So people disappeared all the time. But generally speaking, they do. I mean, there was a dude, and there was this black pimp motherfucker in there. I mean, this dude was fucking immaculate. Every day he wore a different suit. We're talking hat, cane, the whole 9 yards. Every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, he had a different suit every day. So there was like judges there. There was Daryl Strawberry had been there. There was some of the Kansas City Royals players was there, because we were located in a thing called the Star Unit, and that was for like drug and alcohol rehab. That was the first time I realized that marijuana is a very slowly addictive drug, and that you people that smoke weed, they think they're in the here and now and in reality, but the real truth is they're not. They're in an altered state of mind, and they don't realize that they don't even know they're in a fog bank at all. I never knew till I got sober. So I learned a lot down there. So anyway, we're in there, and I'm like, this place is 100% different. It ain't dirtier. It's clean. If you're doing more than 5 years, you get a key to your own room and shit. And I was working in the kitchen, and I remember one day I was walking by, and there was this really hot chick, man. She was wearing a kind of back in the, remember they lived in Newton John, and she'd wear the headband rolled up around her forehead, and the those leg warmers, I think they called them, and she had a red and white striped T-shirt on, and the stripes were horizontal, and right here in the center between her tits, it said SUN, and I looked at her and I thought, man, she's gorgeous. And here I am with my shaved head, because I early on had them cut all my hair off, because I wasn't gonna have that used as a weapon against me to grab me by anybody. That's something I learned from another old convict. Make sure you have your head shaved like military basic training, right? So we're in there, and after a while, I'm working in the kitchen. I got to know this brother in there, this big, tall, black dude. And one day in the kitchen, he came over to me, And I'd heard some rumors that she was really, like, I guess they call them a hermaphrodite, like she was born with kind of both sexes. So, but she was housed with the women in the women's unit, and this was before all this DEI shit. So she was, I guess, considered by the government to be more female than male. But I'd heard these rumors about her, and I couldn't. And me and my homies, we'd be talking about it, and like, wow, we couldn't even believe it. Like, whoa, what's up with that? So, like I said, one day I was in the kitchen working, and that big tall black dude came over and he said, "Hey, you see that girl over there?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "She told me she wants you to eat her cat." You know what I mean? And I said, "Oh, damn, brother, what's up with that? Why would you say that to me?" He said, "That's what she told me to tell you." He set the scene real quick for this next story. And I said, "Well, I heard that she was really a guy." And he says, "Yes, that's true." He said, "Actually, I know her. We grew up together." And he said, "But she had a government sponsored operation to basically make her one or the other. And she was more female than male, I guess." So I was like, "Oh, no." So I said, "No, no, 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 no. That ain't happening." So I went back, and that after I got off work, I was telling my homies about it, right? Oh, that motherfucker wouldn't let me live that shit down. They were like fucking, and then I said, "Well, fuck, maybe I should just try it, see what's up, right?" And just kidding. But one day I had to go up and see my counselor. I was getting close to getting out. Back then, we used to call that getting shorter than a fat man's dick. When you're within, I was like within 3 days of being released to a halfway house. So I had to go up and see my counselor to do what they call the merry-go-round. You got to go to all the different offices and everything and get all the faculty to sign off on your discharge and all that shit, right? So I went up and seen him, but he was crippled. He had polio when he was a kid, and so he had to take the elevator down. And when the elevator opens up, it opens up to the women's side. So him and I walk off the elevator and take a right. And as we're going out these double doors, like in school, where you push the bar, we opened up the door, man, and as he was in front of me, and just as I came past the door, and the hand reached out and grabbed me by the arm, and it was her, and she pulled me up real close, and she said, "When you gonna give me some of that stuff?" That's what she said. I said, "Fucking jerk, Mar." I said, "Get the fuck off me, man." So it was a trippy place, man. And me and my homies there, we were called the Sandwich Kings because then we all three worked in the kitchen. I would take my hairnet off at night, at the end of the shift, and then we'd steal eggs and put in my hairnet, and then I'm the one that cleaned the steam table, and we would boil the eggs, and then I would take food service gloves and fill them up with Thousand Island dressing or mayonnaise or whatever we needed. And then we'd steal bread. And there was this real OG fucking black dude named, man. He was a crazy son of a bitch. Like, he violated his parole. They found him with a whore and a big 45 pistol and shit. He tried to get out the window. Mike was an old school black dude gangster, and he worked in the kitchen. He's the one who would steal all the chicken or anything off the line. They kept in locked boxes. But when they wasn't looking, this dude would take a whole fucking tray of chicken or meat or whatever and take it in the back, man, and then dump it out. And then he'd go back in there later and pick all the meat off and put it in bags, right? I would get the eggs and I would do my thing and I'd get the condiments. And then we had another buddy, this big fat dude, but he was a real butcher. So they put him in the butcher shop, but he was locked into like a separate room inside the kitchen. Well, we found out how to get the bolts out of the hinge thing and was able to open it up enough, man, for him to give us meat. And so that's how we would smuggle all this shit back to our house. And we would make ham salad, chicken salad. We made some killer fucking sandwiches. And we had clients that we got 4 sandwiches. We'd give them 4 sandwiches a night. And at the end of the week, they'd give us a bag of weed, which was like about a finger thick, not much, but it was still real marijuana because they had it brought in from the outside. And we just openly sat. We would all smoke right in the day room. we just sat there and smoked weed openly and watched TV. Nobody never got busted. No one ever. Matter of fact, I dropped a half a hit of acid one night. We got some LSD in there. Not a good place to trip. I stayed up all night and watched a video about the making of the Golden Gate Bridge. And it was fascinating. I was up all night tripping balls. And every time they came in for count, man, shine that light in there in the day room, because you didn't have to be in the cell. You could do whatever you wanted. And it just like an explosion of sparks, lights, and shit. I said, well, we're never going to do that again. That's for sure. So we had a little thing going. We sold sandwiches. We hustled. There was one of my buddies was from Alaska, and he ran numbers. He was like one of the guys that could work for the mafia. He knew how to do all them betting things, and then I never did really learn it, but I helped him peddle them, and then I made a little bit of money on that too. So we hustled a lot. So towards the end of my federally funded vacation, the there was a main guy, the main guard in the kitchen. His name was Mr. Salzman, and he was all crippled up and fucked up, gnarly looking dude. And the story that I heard was that he had been at a maximum security prison, and he was Jewish, right? And some convicts got him and put him in the fucking wind, because all the ovens in there are big long trays that rotate to carry a lot of food, and they put him in one of them ovens and put him in the oven and tried to bake him because they said it would only be fitting for a Jew. His name. So I had developed this like thing. The way he walked reminded me of a cartoon, and when he was walking through the kitchen, I would whistle anonymously. I'd go, and it started catching on, and it used to just piss him off, man. But then the other guard, who was kind of cool to us, to my little crew, his name was God damn, I can't think of it right now. But anyway, uh, uh, I can't think of it. Anyway, so Sonny Riley was his name. So he was kind of cool to us, and he was pretty friendly to me. And so on my way out to go catch a cab, when I finally got out, the day I was supposed to be released, I was going down the steps from the chow hall, and I was going to the front door. They'd already gave me a little pass. I got to go out for like 3 hours. I went to a store and bought me a pair of pants. I think I only got like $50 or something. Bought a pair of pants, some underwear, socks, and a shirt. That's all I got. So I came back. So I'm in my street clothes now. I'm going to the going down the steps there and going out to get in the cab to go to the bus station to go to a halfway house in Kansas City, Missouri. And Sonny Rayleigh was up there. I think it was called Rayleigh, not Riley. Rayleigh, Sonny Rayleigh. Him and three or four of my homies, the butcher, Mike, the black dude, and one of my other partners in crime, they were all out there fucking with me, going, "Hey, we'll see you in a couple weeks, Wiggins." And I turned around and said, "Fuck you, man. No, I'm not coming back here, right?" And so it was kind. I felt kind of bad about leaving them behind, but that's what happens there. People come, people go, and you got to be happy for the people that's going home. So I get out there and I get in the cab, and we barely make it to the bus station. He almost had to pull the bus over with his lights to, or not. I mean, not with his cab, but I just barely got on the bus to take me. I had one stop in Dallas, Texas. So we're going from Fort Worth to Dallas, and then from Dallas to Kansas City, Missouri. So I catch the bus. I get to the bus station, and I'm just sitting there waiting. I've got maybe about an hour to go before the bus gets there. And I'm just sitting there, and this black cat comes slinking up to me, and he's like, "Hey, yo, man, you want to buy some weed?" And I'm like, "Fuck yes, I do. I must have had a little bit of money left over." I said, "Fuck yeah, I want to buy some weed," because, we was getting them little finger bags, but really have a real fat joint or something. I was down with that for sure. So he goes, "Come on with me." So we go out of the bus station and take a right, and it was like a half horseshoe pull through for the buses when they would come in. They'd go around back and come out front and stop and load and unload passengers. So we go around to the back, and there was a little recessed area for maintenance and stuff like that. So we're standing there, and then before I know what's happening, I look, something catches my eye. Remember, I'm highly tuned, man. I've just been in 3 federal prisons, man, for over a year. So I'm pretty watching my back, and I see some movement, and I turn my head, and there's these other 2 black dudes come up behind me, and they're just standing there. And so I kind of turned to my left and put my back closer to the wall. And this dude's been trying to sell me this bag of weed. He whips it out, and it's like, man, I'm looking at it and I'm smelling it. I'm like, man, it's fucking as bad as I wanted it. I was almost ready to buy some, but I knew my little voice telling me, man, that looked like mattress stuffing or some shit. No, that ain't even real marijuana. And so just as he goes, well, and so he kind of emptied half the bag into another bag, or he pulled them apart and then tied it. He goes, how about half of it? And I was holding it, thinking about it. I was really thinking about it against my better judgment. And just about then, all of a sudden I look, and the 2 black guys are gone, but there's a cop standing there, a great big mean looking fucking cop. And he already had his handcuffs out. Click, had me in handcuffs. I haven't even been out of prison a fucking hour, or maybe 2 hours at the most. And I'm already in fucking handcuffs. I couldn't fucking believe it. And then he handcuffed me to the black dude that was trying to sell me the weed. And he said, pick that up, because when he came up, when he put the handcuffs on me, I had the weed in my right hand. I just dropped it on the ground. He said, pick that up. And I did. And he says, and he gave us a big, scary speech, about going to jail and stuff. I said, look, officer, listen. I said, I have some paperwork in my back pocket. I'm on furlough to a halfway house in Kansas City, Missouri. I just got out of prison about an hour ago. I said, if you let me go, I promise you will never see me again. My bus is almost ready to be here. I said, I was just trying to buy some weed. I just got out of prison. And so after a little speech, he finally says, listen, that's what we're going to do. And he unhandcuffed us, and he's told me, he says, take that weed. And he pointed around the corner from whence we came. He said, go around that corner and dump that out. And I thought that was a fucking weird thing to say. So I said, yes, sir, no problem. And I turned around to the black dude. I said, I'm out of here, man. And I took the weed. When we got around the corner, I gave him the weed, and I said, I'm out of here. And I went to the bus station, and I got on the bus. Not even 2 hours out of prison, John, I was already in handcuffs. And all I could think was, we'll see you in a couple weeks, Carl. I didn't want to go back to prison, not because of like being back in prison. It would be the embarrassment of my homies and shit saying they were going to see me in a couple weeks. Yeah, thanks for the fucking support, bro. What the fuck? So I got on that fucking bus, and I didn't try buying no more weed, man. I got to Kansas City, and I said, I ain't doing that no more. And I survived the halfway house, and I survived 5 years of federal parole and made my bones, man. And I programmed Narcotics Anonymous twice a week, counselor once a week, and probation once a month, and random urine tests 4 to 6 times a month for 5 years. Well, 51 months, almost 5 years. So I towed the fucking line, bro. I paid my fucking price to be here. And that's why my stories have value, because I paid a big price for them. But I say all great stories are born, and especially funny stories, are born from great pain.
Great pain.
And that's all I got to say about that.